A woman sits alone in a hospital corridor at 2 a.m. She is still wearing a torn green silk dress. One shoe is missing. Her makeup is destroyed. There is a red mark on her cheek that has not faded in 6 hours. She is holding a single birthday candle between 2 fingers and staring at nothing. Then she looks up, directly at the camera. Her voice is completely calm.
They took my
They
husband.
took my husband.
They took
They
my
took
home.
my home. They took my children. They even tried to take my name. She looks down at the candle. But they forgot one thing. She looks up again. They forgot who my father was. 6 hours earlier, Elena Sterling was the most envied woman in the room. Sterling Manor sits on 4 acres at the edge of the city and does not apologize for itself. 3 floors of ivory stone, a chandelier in the entrance hall that was commissioned in Milan and took 18 months to install, a garden that employs 5 people full-time just to keep it looking effortless. Tonight, every window is lit. 300 guests have arrived in cars that cost more than most people's houses. Politicians, CEOs, a Korean investment delegation in perfectly cut suits. West African business partners in embroidered agbada so fine the fabric moves like water. 2 worlds meeting over money, which is the only truly universal language. A string quartet plays something European near the entrance. Nobody is listening to the music. Everyone is watching the door. Because Madame Vivian Sterling's 65th birthday is not simply a birthday. It is an announcement. Everyone in this room knows it. They have been waiting for 3 years for Vivian to name her successor, and tonight she has promised, before every significant partner and investor Sterling Holdings has ever had, that the question will finally be answered. Everyone already knows the answer. Then Marcus Sterling walks in and you understand why. He is 34 years old and he moves through a room like he was born knowing it belongs to him. Not arrogant, confident in the specific way that only comes from never once being told no. Tall, well-built, the kind of man who looks like he was assembled by committee specifically to run a company. He stops to shake hands and the handshake is warm and the eye contact is real and the person he is greeting genuinely feels, for those 3 seconds, like the most important person in the building. On his left arm, Elena. She is wearing a green silk dress the color of new leaves after rain. No jewelry except small gold earrings. She has the kind of face that makes expensive jewelry feel unnecessary. She is the daughter of a businessman who built something real before he died, quiet money, not this kind of loud money, and she has never quite learned to perform for a room the way Marcus does. She doesn't try. She watches instead, and misses nothing. Between them, holding both their hands, the twins, Amara and Zara, 3 years old, dressed in matching white dresses with tiny yellow flowers at the collar. Amara surveys the ballroom with enormous serious eyes like she is conducting a formal assessment of the premises. Zara waves at a passing waiter. He waves back. She is completely delighted. Guests begin moving toward Marcus immediately. The pull is almost physical. Marcus, those Q3 numbers were extraordinary. Marcus, we watched your Singapore keynote. Brilliant work. Marcus, your father would have been so proud of everything you've built. He accepts every compliment with a handshake and a laugh that makes the person feel like they said something genuinely clever. He remembers names. He asks about the right children and the right business trips and the right surgeries. He is very, very good at this. Elena watches him from 2 steps back, slight smile, and she loves him precisely because she knows what he looks like when all of this comes off at home. When he falls asleep reading to the twins and she finds all 3 of them piled on the girl's small bed. His arm around both of them, his reading glasses still on. When he burns every single meal he attempts to cook and then eats the results with complete dignity rather than admit defeat. When he sits on the bathroom floor with Zara during thunderstorms and pretends he is also a little bit scared so she doesn't feel alone in it. She loves both versions of him equally. Remember this. It matters later. Then Vivian Sterling enters. The room shifts the way a room shifts when gravity changes direction. Not because she demands attention, because attention simply moves toward her, the way water finds the lowest point. 65 years old. Silver hair, architectural and precise. The kind of thin that comes from 40 years of discipline rather than deprivation. Diamonds at her throat that are older than most of the people wearing borrowed gowns in this room. She sees Marcus. She smiles. She sees Elena. Her smile doesn't disappear. It just becomes something different. Same muscles. Different meaning entirely. She kisses Marcus on both cheeks. She touches Amara's hair. She does not touch Elena. She does not look at Elena long enough for anyone else to notice that she is not looking at Elena. The master of ceremonies taps his glass. Ladies and gentlemen, Madame Vivian Sterling requests your attention for one brief announcement before we begin this evening's celebration. Vivian ascends the curved staircase slowly. At the top she turns. 300 faces look up at her from below, and she takes exactly 3 seconds to let them wait. My friends, you have been asking me for 3 years when I plan to name a successor. When I plan to let the next generation lead. A pause. The room is completely still. Tonight, before this company's oldest partners and newest friends, I am ready to make that announcement. By midnight, this family will know exactly who leads Sterling Holdings into its next chapter. Applause. The kind that comes from relief as much as enthusiasm. Marcus reaches for Elena's hand. She squeezes it. And in the corner of the room, barely visible behind a pillar, the head of household staff leans toward a junior servant and says something low. The servant glances at the birthday cake table, then looks away. The camera would stay on that table for exactly 1 second too long if this were a film. Long enough for something to register without being understood. Something about that table is not right. The evening moves forward. Champagne circulates. The Korean delegation makes its way to a private meeting room where Marcus is scheduled to join them in 20 minutes to close the final terms of a 14-month negotiation. Board members cluster at the edges of the room doing the mental arithmetic of who is about to become very useful to know. Marcus works the space with the ease of a man who has been trained for exactly this moment since before he could articulate what training was. Elena is not in the ballroom. Zara began running a fever 30 minutes into the party. Low, the kind that is not dangerous but is uncomfortable and makes a 3-year-old want her mother in the particular desperate way that cannot be reasoned with. Elena took her upstairs to one of the guest rooms that had been set up as a children's suite for the evening. A thoughtful touch from the event planner that Vivian will later describe as Elena hiding from the party. Elena sits on the edge of the bed with a damp cloth on Zara's forehead and sings something low and private. Not a real song. Something she invented years ago that has no name and no fixed words. She makes up the words as she goes based on whatever Zara needs to hear that specific night. Zara blinks up at her. Mama, the cake is very big. It is, baby. It's a very special cake. Can I have the flower piece? The yellow one at the top. We'll see. Zara sighs with the full weight of a child who has been told we'll see before. That means no. That means we'll see. Zara considers this. Accepts it with the reluctant dignity of someone who has learned that some battles are not winnable at 3 years old. Elena tucks the cloth against her forehead. She can hear the party below. The music. The voices. The particular quality of noise that 300 people in an excellent mood produce. She does not resent being up here. She has never been entirely comfortable in that ballroom with those people in that specific performance of having arrived. She is more herself up here, with her daughter's small warm hand in hers, singing invented songs. Downstairs, Amara has decided that the birthday party is her party, and she is conducting a thorough inspection. She has assessed the string quartet. Acceptable. She has assessed the canapés. The orange ones required extended personal investigation, conducted by eating 4 of them in quick succession. She has assessed several guests and found them broadly inoffensive, though one man with a very loud laugh startled her and has been added to a mental list of people to avoid. Now she is assessing the birthday cake. It stands at the center of its own table, draped with a heavy decorative cloth at the base. A 5-tier achievement of ivory fondant and gold leaf and hand-painted patterns that cost more than some people's annual salary. The bottom of the table is draped with velvet cloth that reaches the floor. To Amara, that cloth is a curtain. and curtains are for pulling. She approaches it with her chin up, the way she approaches everything. She grips the edge of the velvet with both small hands. She pulls. The table sways. Not because a 3-year-old has the strength to topple a catering table, but because the table legs have been set on polished marble at an angle that would not pass any reasonable safety inspection. Because the counterweights at the base that should prevent exactly this scenario are not in the correct position. Because someone, earlier this evening, made certain that the table was precisely as stable as it needed to be to survive a few hours of normal movement and no more. The table tips. The crash is enormous. Gold leaf and ivory fondant hit the marble in pieces. The top 2 tiers collapse onto the third. The decorative sugar flowers that took a pastry chef 11 hours to construct scatter across the floor. Champagne glasses on a nearby surface rattle and one falls. A woman screams. The string quartet stops mid-note. One violin cutting off to silence like a snapped thread. 300 faces turn at exactly the same moment. Amara stands in the wreckage, completely covered in cake. She is not crying. She is assessing the situation with the focused attention of a scientist observing unexpected data. Phones are already up. Recording. Always recording. The video will be online before the evening is over. Vivian Sterling crosses the room. Not quickly. She walks through the parted guests with the unhurried certainty of a woman who knows exactly what she is about to do. She stops in front of Amara. She looks at the child. She looks at the ruined cake. She looks at the Korean investor's white shirt. She looks at the hem of her own dress. Then she looks up. Elena is at the top of the staircase. She heard the crash. She ran. She is standing in her green dress, face pale, one hand on the banister, eyes taking in the scene below. Vivian looks at Elena. She draws back her hand. The slap lands on Elena's face so hard the sound echoes in a room that has gone completely silent. Elena's head snaps sideways. She grabs the banister. Vivian's voice is not raised. That somehow makes it worse. You trained your daughter to humiliate me in my own home. On my birthday, in front of every person who matters to this company. She steps closer to Elena, close enough that only Elena can hear the next part. I have been waiting for a reason. You just gave me a beautiful one. Elena looks at her. Her cheek is red. Her eyes are steady. She says nothing because she is thinking about what her father would say, which is, write down what just happened. Exactly. The time and the words and the witness count. Information is a weapon. Don't fire it before you're ready. Marcus pushes through the crowd. He reaches Elena in 12 seconds and his hands are on her face immediately, turning her toward him, his thumb light against the mark on her cheek. Are you all right? Then he turns to Vivian. Mother. His voice is shaking. She is 3 years old. She is a baby. She pulled a cloth. Marcus. That is all she did. That is the entire sum of what happened. A 3-year-old pulled a cloth. For one moment, one real and unrepeatable moment, Marcus Sterling is exactly the man Elena married. Standing between his wife and his mother with his voice shaking and his mind completely clear about which side of the line he is on. Vivian straightens. She smooths her dress. She turns to face the room. Ladies and gentlemen. Her voice is controlled and carries. I promised you an announcement tonight. I am a woman of my word. Complete silence. Effective immediately, Marcus Sterling is removed as Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Holdings. The silence becomes a different kind of silence. His system access will be terminated tonight. His company accounts will be closed in the morning. I look forward to introducing his replacement at our next shareholders meeting. She steps away from the microphone, like she has just changed a seating arrangement, like she did not just destroy her son's career in front of 300 cameras. Marcus's company phone vibrates in his pocket. He takes it out. One notification. Access revoked. He tries his email. Account suspended. He calls his assistant. The number has been reassigned. In 47 minutes, Marcus Sterling loses everything he spent a decade building. We watch every second of it. 3 board members he has known for 8 years walk past him in the hallway, and none of them make eye contact. One of them is a man whose wife Marcus personally drove to the hospital 18 months ago during a medical emergency. He doesn't look up. The Korean delegation that Marcus has spent 4 months personally managing is quietly escorted to a private room by someone else. Marcus watches through the glass as his cousin Daniel Sterling shakes their hands. Daniel catches Marcus looking. He smiles. The smile says, "I've been waiting for this specific evening for a very long time." A taxi pulls up outside Sterling Manor at 11 p.m. Not their car. Their car has already been collected. Elena comes downstairs with both twins. She has cleaned the cake off Amara. She has Zara on her hip, still slightly feverish. She is carrying one handbag. She looks at Marcus. She doesn't ask what happened. She already knows all of it. "Let's go," she says. "We'll figure it out." Marcus looks at her, and the audience can see him fighting something. Some part of him that wants to say, "If Zara hadn't pulled the cloth, if you had been watching her more carefully, if you hadn't been up there instead of down here where you were supposed to be." He doesn't say it. Not yet. He picks up Amara. He holds out his other hand to Elena. "Together," he says. She takes his hand. But somewhere in the room, captured in the footage that will be analyzed for weeks online, a clip surfaces that no one was supposed to record. A corner camera. Vivian Sterling, the moment after she steps away from the announcement, when everyone is looking at Marcus. Her face, private and unguarded for exactly 4 seconds. She is smiling. Not the tight smile of someone controlling their anger. The real smile. The smile of a woman who just received exactly what she planned for. The internet notices. The internet always notices. If you're new here, this is Afro K Storyverse, where we tell the stories that keep you up at night. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss what comes next. This story is only getting started. 11 days later, Elena is learning to cook on 2 burners. Their new apartment is on the 4th floor of a building where the elevator works 3 days out of 7. 1 bedroom. The twins share a pull-out sofa that Marcus spent 6 hours assembling from a flat-pack box. The kitchen window faces another building's wall. The bathroom ceiling has a water stain shaped like a running figure that Amara has named Gerald. Elena does not complain about any of this. She learns the 2-burner stove. She learns which neighbor has noisy arguments on Thursday evenings and which one leaves bread outside her door on Sunday mornings without knocking. She learns the bus route. She learns the price of everything. Marcus cannot find work. Not because he is not trying. He applies for 41 positions in the first 3 months. 36 do not respond. Interview him and then grow carefully quiet when they realize who his mother is. One offers him a position, and Sterling Holdings sends a legal letter to that company 3 days later. The offer disappears. The calls stop. He comes home from his 4th unsuccessful interview of the week and sits down at the kitchen table. Elena puts a plate in front of him and sits across from him. In the next room, they can hear the twins. Amara's voice. "In my story, the daddy is the strongest one." Zara's voice. "In my story, the mama is the strongest one." Amara, after consideration. "In my story, they are both the strongest one." Marcus looks at the plate. He is not crying. He is doing something quieter and harder than crying. "I'll fix this," he says. "I know," Elena says. "I don't know when." "I know you don't know when. It doesn't matter. We built something before. We'll build again." She reaches across the table. She puts her hand over his. "But this time," she says, "without your mother at the top of it." He looks at her for a long moment. "I don't deserve you." "Correct," she says. He laughs. She laughs. From the other room, "Mama." Amara says Gerald is not a real name for a water stain. Their laughter is real and full, and it fills that small apartment completely. That night, when Elena is asleep, Marcus sits by the kitchen window with his phone. He is reading a message. The sender is saved as D. Sterling, his cousin Daniel. The message says, "Mother wants to meet." She has an offer. Don't tell Elena. Come Thursday. Marcus stares at it for a very long time. Then he types, I'll hear what she says. Then he deletes the entire conversation. He goes to bed. He lies completely still beside his wife in the dark. He does not sleep for a long time. 3 months become 4. 4 becomes 7. Zara gets sick again. Not the gentle fever of the birthday night. A respiratory infection that needs medication they cannot immediately cover. Elena does not tell Marcus. She walks to the pawnbroker 2 streets over, takes off her wedding ring, and places it on the counter. She tells the man it's just a ring she stopped wearing. She takes the money. She buys the medication. She walks home in the rain rather than spend the bus fare. She doesn't tell Marcus about the ring. He finds out because he reaches for her hand at dinner and feels the absence. He looks at her hand. He looks at her face. She meets his eyes without looking away. She needed medicine. Elena. She needed medicine, Marcus. It is a ring. She is our daughter. He excuses himself and goes to the bathroom. He runs the tap. Elena can hear him through the thin door anyway. She puts her palm flat against the wood and keeps it there until the sound stops. She doesn't tell him that the engagement ring went last month. The following week, Amara comes home from the neighbor's daughter's birthday holding a plastic bracelet with a pink charm. She puts it on her wrist and looks at Zara's wrist and something shifts in her face. Mama, where is Zara's special bracelet? The gold one from the big house. Elena goes still. Which bracelet, baby? The gold one, with the heavy clasp. The one Grandma tried to take but you said no. The one from your daddy. Elena is already standing. She goes to the bedroom. She searches the small bag where she keeps the few pieces she brought from the manor. She searches the wardrobe. She searches the twins' drawer. The bracelet is not there. The gold bracelet with the oddly heavy clasp that Elena's father placed on Zara's wrist the day the twins were born. The one Elena could never quite explain the weight of. The one she always thought was simply unusual craftsmanship. Gone. She does not tell Marcus about this either. She adds it to the list of things she is holding alone. Vivian comes to the apartment on a Tuesday. She comes alone. No driver visible. She has dressed deliberately simply. A gray coat that still costs more than their month's rent. She rings the bell like a person who lives in buildings with doorbells, like a completely ordinary person. Elena opens the door. They look at each other. He's not here, Elena says. I know, Vivian says. I came to see you. Elena steps back. Vivian enters. She looks around the apartment with an expression that is not contempt. It is something more honest than contempt. Something that might, buried very deep, be the first edge of guilt. She sits without being invited. She sets an envelope on the table between them. There is a settlement inside, she says. It allows Marcus to return to a consulting position at Sterling Holdings. Not CEO, but it's a beginning. It includes full medical provision for the children and their schooling. Elena looks at the envelope. She does not touch it. What does it require? Vivian does not look away. Your departure, a divorce. You keep one daughter. Marcus keeps the other. Arrangements will be made for supervised contact. The apartment is completely quiet. Get out, Elena says. She says it without any heat at all, which somehow makes it the most absolute thing she has ever said to anyone. Get out of my home, right now. Vivian picks up the envelope. She stands. She pauses at the door. He'll come around eventually, she says. Poverty is very persuasive. She leaves. Elena stands in the middle of the apartment. She breathes. She does not cry. She waits until she is sure she is steady. Then she makes 2 decisions simultaneously. The first is that Marcus will never know his mother was here today. The second is that tonight she will check his phone. She finds the messages to Daniel. She finds that Marcus has already met with Vivian. Once. 3 weeks ago. His reply to Daniel afterward. I told her no. I walked out. I'm done with this. She puts the phone down. She breathes. He said no. She will believe that. She has to believe that. In the morning she finds a crumpled paper in the bin under the kitchen table. She smooths it out. It is the settlement document. At the bottom, Marcus's signature. Then, written over it in large furious letters, the word "no" so forceful the pen went through the paper. He signed it to cross it out. But he was reading it long enough to write his name. She folds the paper very small. She puts it in her pocket. She makes breakfast. When Marcus comes in, she puts a plate in front of him and asks how he slept. Marcus starts working nights. He tells Elena he is driving for a car hire service. He comes home at 2 a.m. in a cheap shirt that smells like cigarettes. He stops meeting her eyes directly when he talks. He stops finishing sentences about money. Their neighbor Mr. Ose knocks on Elena's door on a Thursday afternoon. "Mrs. Sterling." I debated saying anything. I decided I would want to know. He shows her his phone. A society column. A photograph. Marcus in a suit, in the lobby of Sterling Holdings, standing beside a woman in a red dress. The caption identifies him as a newly appointed senior advisor to the Sterling Consulting Division. Elena reads the caption 3 times. She thanks Mr. Ose. She closes the door. She sits down on the kitchen floor. She sits there for 20 minutes. When Marcus comes home that night, she puts his dinner in front of him. She sits across from him. She asks how his shift was. She watches him look directly into her eyes and say it was a slow night, barely broke even. She watches him lie with his whole face. She says nothing. Not yet. She is her father's daughter. Her father said, "The most dangerous thing a woman can do is let someone know she knows. Wait, be ready before you fire." That night she dials a number she has not called in 5 years. It rings 4 times. Then a woman's voice. "Elena, I've been waiting for you." The voice belongs to Claire, her father's lawyer. The woman who has been, Elena is about to discover, doing something very specific with the last 3 years of her life. The photograph appears 2 days later. Marcus Sterling, a luxury hotel entrance. And beside him, her hand on his arm, the woman in the red dress. The same woman from the birthday party. The same woman from the Sterling Holdings lobby. Her hand is familiar on his arm. Her face is turned toward his. The internet decides what the photograph means before anyone provides context. Comments multiply. The tags reach Elena before she has even seen the image. When she finally pulls it up, she looks at it for a long time without any expression at all. She slides her phone across the table to Marcus. She says nothing. She waits. Marcus picks up the phone. He looks at the photograph. When he looks up, Elena is watching him with that particular stillness she has, the one that is not blankness but absolute attention. "She's a client," he says, "from a hotel legal team. We met to review a consulting contract." He is calm, clear. His eyes are steady. Elena wants to believe him. The audience wants to believe him. He has said the right words in the right voice, and he is still the man who crossed out the divorce contract in furious capital letters. Then the second image loads. Hotel parking structure. External camera. Marcus and the woman in the red dress walking together. She leans forward. She kisses him on the cheek. He puts his hand on her arm. He says something. She laughs. Marcus stares at the second image. "Elena, that is not. It doesn't mean what it—" "Listen to me." "I'm listening," she says. "She is an investigator. She is helping me build a case against my mother's account manipulation. She has access to internal records I cannot get myself. Does she know that's the full nature of your arrangement?" 1 second. 2. The silence is the answer, and they both know it. Elena stands. She picks up her phone. She walks to the bedroom. She closes the door. Not a slam. A close. The deliberate click of someone who has decided something. Marcus puts both hands flat on the table. He stares at the surface. From the other room come the twins. Amara's voice. "When Daddy comes in the story, he is always the good one." Zara's voice. "Because he is the good one." Amara with complete certainty. "Yes, because he is Daddy." Marcus closes his eyes. He stays at that table for a very long time. Something curdles in Marcus Sterling over the following weeks. It happens slowly, the way milk turns, not dramatically but by degrees, and then one evening all at once. He has been blacklisted for 7 months. He has watched his wife sell her jewelry. He has been lying to her face about where he goes at night. He has watched Elena, who was supposed to be the gentle one, the quiet one, the one who needed his world to navigate, prove consistently more resilient and practical and resourceful than him in every way that matters. He has started to resent her for it. He will not admit this for a very long time, possibly not ever, but it is true. He comes home to an apartment that feels smaller than usual and dinner that is not ready because Elena is on a call for her translation work. He stands in the kitchen. He looks at 2 unwashed bowls in the sink. Something breaks. He waits until the twins are asleep. Then he sits down. Everything fell apart because of that birthday. Elena turns slowly. What did you say? I'm not saying she meant it. I'm saying if it hadn't happened. If Zara hadn't happened. I'm not saying. You are saying, Marcus. You are sitting in my kitchen saying our 3-year-old daughter is responsible for what your mother planned for years. I need you to hear yourself. My mother needed a reason, yes, but she got one handed to her. Elena stands up. Look at me. He looks. Your child pulled a cloth. Your mother stole a company. Those are not the same size of thing. They are not even in the same universe. And if you cannot see that distinction, then the man I chose to build a life with is not in this room right now. She goes to bed. Marcus sits alone in the kitchen. For the first time, he does not feel like the man she chose either. The financial investigator arrives at 8 a.m. 2 of them with a police constable standing at the door with documents in a folder. Elena opens it in her dressing gown with Zara on her hip, and in the space of 60 seconds she understands what has been built against her. 17 transactions. Sterling Holdings accounts. A private account in Elena's maiden name that Elena has never opened, never seen, never signed for. Transfers spanning 3 years, beginning 6 months before the birthday party. These are not my accounts, Elena says. Mrs. Sterling, the documentation. These are forged documents attached to forged accounts. I have never seen these records. My signature was reproduced without my consent. I want a lawyer in this apartment before another word leaves your mouth. Do you understand me? The investigator pauses. He had prepared for tears. Possibly denial, the soft kind. Not this. Mrs. Sterling. A lawyer. Right now. Or this conversation is finished. She calls Claire. Claire arrives in 38 minutes. By then, there are 2 more investigators and the constable has been joined by a second officer. Elena has dressed, put both twins in their coats, and made tea, which she does not offer to anyone. 3 account signatures don't match Elena's actual signature samples across multiple document comparisons. 2 accounts were opened on dates where Elena's passport places her in another country. The evidence, built to destroy her, has been built by someone who did not account for the possibility that Elena Sterling would stand in her own doorway at 8 a.m. and refuse to flinch. But the charges are filed anyway, because the goal was never a conviction. Marcus is in the hallway when they put his wife in the police vehicle. Elena looks at him through the glass window. She does not speak. She does not cry. She looks at him with the full weight of everything she knows, the messages to Daniel, the settlement document with his signature, the 7 months of lies, and she looks at him and her eyes say a very simple thing. Do something. Please, do something. He stands on the pavement. He does not move. The vehicle pulls away. Marcus takes the settlement document from his jacket pocket. He unfolds it. He looks at it. Then he takes out his phone and he calls Daniel. Tell my mother I'm ready to discuss terms. The divorce takes 11 days. Elena is held for 36 hours before Claire's procedural challenges force a review that makes the charges impossible to sustain. She is released. She comes home to an apartment with 1 name on the lease. Marcus has taken his things. He has taken Amara. Zara is sitting on the pull-out sofa in her coat. She has had her coat on since morning because someone told her this morning that things were being organized. She has been ready to go to her father's since 9 a.m. It is now 4 p.m. No one has come. When she sees Elena, she screams. Not in fear. In the specific relief of a child who has been waiting in a coat all day for a parent and has been given back the right one. She runs. Elena catches her. She holds her so tight Zara makes a small sound against her shoulder and then holds back just as hard. Elena holds her daughter. She looks at the door. She looks at the space on the sofa where Amara should be. The yellow flowers on the collar of Amara's coat that she loves so much that she has requested it 7 times in the last 2 weeks. I won't lose both my daughters, Elena says. She says it quietly. To the room. To her father's memory. To whatever might be listening. I promise. I will not lose both of them. Her phone rings. Unknown number. She answers. A man's voice. Controlled. Deep. An accent that carries both Korean vowels and West African rhythms in it. As though 2 languages have made careful peace inside one person. Mrs. Elena Sterling. My name is Damien Cross. I knew your father. I believe tonight cannot wait. If the story already has your heart racing, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Like this video, subscribe to Afro Storyverse, and drop a comment telling us what you think Marcus deserves. We read every single one. Damien Cross is 41. He takes up space by choice rather than accident. Korean mother, Nigerian father, a background that taught him early that belonging nowhere specific means you can move through everywhere with unusual freedom. He built his first company at 23, sold it at 27, built 2 more, and is currently constructing something that the financial press keeps describing as unprecedented in ways that reveal they don't have the right vocabulary for what he is actually doing. He is sitting in a restaurant that does not concern itself with ratings. He stands when Elena enters. She has Zara on her hip. She could not leave her. He looks at Zara for a moment and something moves through his face too quickly to name. She looks like your sister, he says. Elena goes completely still. You knew about Adiz? He tells her. Over tea she barely touches. 20 years ago, her father James Oseato was in Seoul on a business venture with 3 partners who had decided his equity stake was more valuable without him present to claim it. They had arranged to solve this problem permanently. Damien Cross was 21 years old at the time and entirely without power, money, or leverage of any kind. He overheard what was being arranged. He had one option. Warn James Oseato that he needed to leave Seoul that night. He did. James left. He went home. He rebuilt. He wrote to Damien every year afterward. Even after he became successful. Even after Damien became successful. He wrote letters, actual paper letters, every year, because he believed that the most important thing a person could do was remember who helped them when they were nobody. 6 months before your father died, Damien says. His letter was different. Elena sets down her cup. He said he was afraid. Afraid of what? He didn't say directly. He said he had made arrangements to protect certain things. He said he needed those arrangements in place before he could speak openly about his fears. He said if anything happened to him, I would understand what to do. He pauses. He also mentioned the twins. He said one of them was wearing something that should not be lost. That it contained everything needed. Elena looks at him. The bracelet. Yes. It's gone. I've searched everywhere. I know, Damien says. I know where it is. The documents take an hour. Claire is there, with 3 analysts and a decade of very patient work laid out in order. James Oseato was not simply a businessman who built and sold and reinvested. Before any of that, before Elena, before Adiz, before her mother, before any version of the life Elena remembers, he was one of the original 3 investors in what became Sterling Holdings. Before the name Sterling was attached to it. Before Vivian restructured the equity. Before the founding agreements were quietly rewritten using documents that bore James Oseato's signature on dates when his passport places him on a different continent. His 38% stake was not sold. It was not surrendered. It was taken from him through forgeries so carefully executed that they survived 3 decades of routine auditing. Vivian Sterling has been building her empire on stolen ground for 30 years. Elena reads the figure. 38%. She reads it again. She looks at Claire. Is every page verified? Every page, Claire says. I have spent 3 years verifying it. I could not come to you without being certain. 3 years. Your father asked me not to move until the time was right. He was very specific about that. Elena is quiet for a long time. Zara has fallen asleep against her shoulder. Elena looks at her daughter's sleeping face and she thinks about Amara across the city in a room she knows. Sleeping in a bed Elena walked past every morning for years. She thinks about Marcus signing papers while she was in a holding cell. She thinks about Vivian's private smile at the birthday party. She was already smiling. Before the cake fell. She was already smiling. What do I need to do? The marriage contract is 12 pages. It is not romantic. It is precise and clean and leaves no ambiguity about what it is. The arrangement provides Elena legal standing to act on joint financial holdings and access to institutional legal infrastructure. Damien's corporate holdings merge with Elena's inherited stake, creating a combined position sufficient to challenge Vivian's controlling share. The arrangement is reviewed in 18 months. Both parties enter understanding that this is a strategic alliance. Anything that develops beyond those terms does so on its own time and by mutual conscious consent. Damien slides the document across the table. He offers the pen. He does not say, "You don't have to." He does not say, "I'll protect you." He says, "Your father was the smartest person in any room he walked into. I have always believed that is not the kind of thing that stops being true." Elena looks at the pen. She thinks about Zara in her coat on the sofa waiting all day. She thinks about Amara's voice. Because he is daddy. She takes the pen. She signs. 2 hours later, the announcement publishes. Damien Cross and Elena Sterling formalize strategic partnership. In the Sterling Holdings boardroom, Marcus is mid-sentence in a restructuring meeting with Daniel when Daniel's phone illuminates. Daniel reads the notification. He goes pale in a way that is visible from across the table. He turns the phone toward Marcus. Marcus reads it. The room keeps going. Other voices. Someone shuffling papers. A phone buzzing somewhere. Marcus sits very still. He reads it a second time. Something moves through his face that is complicated and private. Something that looks, if you watch closely, like recognition. Like, I knew she was more than I let myself see. Like, I spent 7 months dismantling the one real thing I had. Like, I am too late. Daniel puts down the phone. We need to move faster. Marcus looks at him. Faster how? Daniel glances at the door. Then back. There are things about what your mother has arranged, Marcus, that you still don't know. If Elena reaches that shareholders' meeting. He stops. What things? Marcus says. The kind of arrangements that don't stop at lawyers. Damien's security team finds the bracelet in a desk drawer in Daniel's private office. It has been sitting there unremarked, logged as a personal item recovered from the manor on the night of the birthday party. Misfiled. Forgotten. The chip inside it is intact. The encryption has not been compromised. Elena holds the bracelet and looks at it for a long time before she lets the analysts take it. Inside the chip are trust documents, investment agreements, the original founding contracts of Sterling Holdings predating any of the documents Vivian has ever produced, and audio files, her father's voice, recorded in the last months of his life, laying out with precise detail exactly what had been taken and exactly how. And one name repeated across multiple recordings. A name that belongs to someone Elena has trusted throughout this entire story. She listens to the recordings alone. When she comes out of that room, her face tells Claire nothing. She has learned to do that. When is the shareholders' meeting? She says. 8 days, Claire says. Then we have 8 days. The Nadia revelation comes apart the same week. Marcus corners her in a parking structure below Sterling Holdings at 6 p.m. He has spent the previous 72 hours doing what he should have done months ago, which is follow the money rather than the person. He has the accounting irregularities that have been attributed to his department for 3 years. He has Daniel's panicked messages, which Daniel has been sending since the Elena announcement, messages that are increasingly specific about things Marcus was not supposed to know. He has had the signature on his father's revised equity documents reviewed by a forensics analyst. "That is not my father's signature," Marcus says. Nadia looks at him. "Marcus, my father never signed those documents. My mother restructured his company using his forged name after he died and could not contradict her. Everything she has built, everything she told me I was inheriting, sits on a stolen foundation. And every choice she pushed me toward, every time she used my position, my future, my ambition to separate me from my family, was built on that same lie." He is not shouting. He is level in the way of someone whose anger has burned through its own heat and arrived somewhere colder and more lasting. "Tell me I'm wrong." Nadia is quiet. "I can't," she says. She opens her bag. She hands him a drive. "I have spent 3 years documenting what the Sterling family has done. Not for your mother. I was commissioned by a separate party who knew about the original forgeries." "Who commissioned you?" "Claire, your father's original legal counsel. Your mother destroyed her father's practice 30 years ago when he refused to certify one of her early document restructurings. She has been building this case ever since. She was waiting until the evidence was complete and the timing was right." Marcus looks at the drive. He thinks about Elena in the police vehicle looking at him through the glass. He thinks about Amara asking him, 3 nights ago, why Zara doesn't come for sleepovers anymore. He thinks about every lie he told his wife in the name of survival and position and the future he was promised. He thinks about his father's signature on a document his father never read. "I sacrificed everything," he says. Not to Nadia, to the heir. "I sacrificed everything for a throne that was always stolen." He takes the drive. He makes 3 calls on the way to his car. The first is to his lawyer. The second is to the forensics analyst. The third, after a long pause, is to a number he has not called in months. It rings 4 times. Elena answers. "Marcus, I know you have no reason to hear me right now," he says. "I know I don't have the right to ask you for anything. I just need to tell you something." She waits. "I found out what my mother did. All of it. Including what she did to your father. I have the documentation. I want you to have it. Whatever you decide to do with it, whatever you decide to do about any of this, that evidence belongs with you. Not with me." A long silence. "Send it to Claire," Elena says. "Elena, send it to Claire, Marcus." She ends the call. He stands in the parking structure for a moment. Then he sends everything to Claire. The call from Daniel comes at 11 p.m. A message first. "I need to talk. Come to my building. Come alone. Don't bring anyone. It's about the shareholders' meeting." Marcus thinks it is about strategy. About Vivian's legal response to Elena's stake announcement. About whatever move the Sterling lawyers are preparing. He parks in Daniel's building's parking structure. He gets out of the car, and he hears Amara's voice from somewhere in the dark. Not nearby, from the level below. "Daddy." Her voice is small and confused and not frightened yet because she does not fully understand that she should be frightened. Marcus stops moving. Every instinct, every version of himself that is not about boardrooms and business, surfaces in about 2 seconds flat. "Amara." He runs toward the sound. What happens next takes less than 2 minutes, and he will never be able to reconstruct it in sequence. There are men. There are vehicles with their lights off. There is the specific arithmetic of a man who is alone against multiple people and knows it and does not stop moving anyway because his daughter is on the other side of the dark. He reaches her. He pulls her against him. He takes the blow meant to separate them, and he does not let go. He is on the ground with his arm around Amara when Damien's security team arrives. Because Damien has had Amara's location tracked since the bracelet's chip was recovered and cross-referenced with the twins' last known coordinates as a precaution. Elena arrives 4 minutes after the security team. She takes Amara first. She checks her. She holds her. She presses her face into Amara's hair and stays there for a moment. Then she looks down at Marcus on the ground. He is bleeding from somewhere above his eye. His jacket is torn. He is holding himself very still with the controlled stillness of someone who is injured and knows it and is not going to say so. He looks up at her. "I'm sorry," he says. He does not specify. He does not list the things he is apologizing for. He trusts her to know the inventory. She looks at him for a long time. "I know," she says. Not, "I forgive you." Not, "It's fine." Not, "We can go back to what we were." Just, "I know." Sometimes that is the heaviest and most honest thing a person can say. Damien arrives. He sees Elena with Amara. He sees Marcus on the ground. He sees Elena's face as she looks at the man she married. The specific complicated expression of someone who loves a person and cannot trust them and does not know yet what those two facts mean sitting beside each other. He says nothing. He takes off his jacket and puts it over Marcus. He calls for medical support. He stands beside Elena and does not ask her anything about what her face is doing. That single gesture tells you more about Damien Cross than anything else in this story. Vivian Sterling is arrested at 7 a.m. the following morning. She opens the door of Sterling Manor in her dressing gown and looks at the officers and the lawyers and Claire standing at the base of her own front steps. She does not say anything for a long moment. She looks past all of them as though she is looking for someone who is not there. She is looking for Marcus. He is not there. She is charged with financial fraud, document forgery, misappropriation of founding equity, and as of 2 hours ago, based on evidence submitted by 3 separate sources overnight, criminal conspiracy to interfere with evidence in a criminal proceeding. Daniel has fled. His apartment is empty. His company phone was left on the kitchen table. Interpol is notified by mid-morning. Vivian is escorted from the manor. She does not look at the house as she leaves. Marcus watches from across the street. He watches until the car turns the corner. He does not feel what he expected to feel. He feels very tired. He feels very clear. He takes out his phone and he calls Elena. "It's done," he says. "I know," she says. "I'm watching the alerts." "Elena." Amara is asking for Zara. Pause. "Tell her Zara is asking for her too." The shareholders' meeting happens 4 days later in a conference suite on the 43rd floor of the Sterling Holdings building. Elena enters in navy blue. Simple. Precise. Nothing unnecessary. She has Claire on her right, Damien on her left. Behind them, analysts and lawyers carrying documentation in ordered folders. She walks the way her father walked, like she knows exactly where she is going and has known for a long time. Vivian's board allies are already seated. 3 of them. The ones who have spent 30 years benefiting from Vivian's arrangements and are now running the specific arithmetic of whether those benefits are worth the current exposure. Their faces suggest the arithmetic is not resolving in Vivian's favor. Vivian herself is not present. Her lawyer represents her from one end of the table with the expression of someone doing their professional best in circumstances they did not anticipate being paid to navigate. Elena takes her seat, not at the side, at the head. She places her hands flat on the surface and she is quiet and she lets the document speak first because her father taught her that the most powerful statement a person can make is to let the truth be loud and stay quiet yourself. Claire distributes copies. Vivian's lawyer picks one up, reads the opening page, goes very still. A board member raises a tentative hand. "If these claims are fully substantiated." "They are substantiated," Claire says. "Then the largest single stakeholder position in this room would belong to me," Elena says. She looks at the board member. She looks at the next one. She looks at the third. 2 of them nod. "As the largest single stakeholder," Elena says, "I'd like to call a vote on interim leadership pending a full governance review." Vivian's lawyer stands. "This meeting should be adjourned pending legal review of the submitted." "You don't have the votes to adjourn it," Elena says. She is not unkind about it. She is simply correct. The vote takes 11 minutes. Elena Sterling, as controlling stakeholder, assumes interim board authority pending a full governance audit of Sterling Holdings. The room is quiet in the way of rooms where something large has just permanently shifted. Elena sits in the chair at the head of the table that she has just, by every legal measure in the room, earned. She does not celebrate. She takes out a notepad. She says, "Let's begin." The final meeting takes place after midnight. A private law office. Neutral ground. No Sterling logos anywhere. In the room, Elena, Damien, Claire, Marcus with a bandaged eye and borrowed shirt, Amara and Zara, asleep on a pulled-together arrangement of two chairs, Amara's arm around her sister the way it always is when they sleep, the way it has been since they were born, the lawyers, the accountants, and on the table a tablet. Claire sets it down. Your father's original legal team found this recording 3 weeks ago in a secure archive. We held it until the proceedings were complete enough that its contents could be received without immediate legal complications. She looks at Elena. He recorded this in the last month of his life. We believe he knew what was coming. He wanted you to have this when it was safe for you to receive it. Elena looks at the tablet. She looks at Damien. He nods once. She looks at Marcus. He is watching her with an expression that has no performance in it. Just the actual man. Whatever is left of him after the last year and a half. She picks up the tablet. She presses play. The image resolves. Her father's face. He is older than her last clear memory of him. Thinner. But his eyes are exactly as she has been carrying them. Precise and warm at the same time. The eyes of a man who sees clearly and still chooses to love what he sees. He leans toward the camera. Elena, my heart, if you are watching this, then you did it. You found the bracelet. You found Claire. You found what was taken. You held on. His expression changes. His voice drops. There is something I need to tell you now. I need you to hear it clearly, and I need you to stay steady when you hear it. Everyone in the room is completely still. The twins sleep. Amara's arm around Zara. My death, James Oseato says, was not an accident. Marcus's breath stops audibly. I knew what was being arranged. I could not stop it. I could only prepare. I want you to know that I prepared carefully and I did not leave you unprotected. Everything you have found, you were meant to find. Every step you took, I tried to leave a path for. He pauses. Now I need to tell you something about the people in the room with you. Every person in the room looks at every other person. There is someone in that room who has known more than they told you throughout all of this. Not your enemy, not Vivian's agent, but someone who made a decision years ago to hold certain information until they knew you were strong enough to receive it. Someone who protected you by keeping something back. And that someone needs to tell you the rest themselves because I can say the name but I cannot say the words they owe you. Only they can do that. He looks directly into the camera. I love you, Elena. I have loved you every day, including the ones where I made choices that complicated your life to protect it. I am so sorry I could not stay long enough to see you in this room. He pauses. One more thing. The name of the person who arranged my death is in the secondary file on this tablet. The documentation behind it is complete. It has already been submitted to 3 separate legal bodies. But I want you to hear the name from me first. He reaches forward. He picks up something off-screen. He writes a name on a piece of paper. He holds it up to the camera. Everyone in the room leans forward. The camera focuses. One person in the room reads it. One person makes a sound that is very small and very involuntary. And everyone else turns to look at that person at exactly the same moment. Elena does not move. She looks at the name on the paper. She looks at the person. She says, very quietly, "Tell me everything." We stay on her face. On those eyes, her father's eyes, precise and warm and utterly clear. On the twins sleeping with Amara's arm around Zara the way it has always been and always will be. Fade to black. Text on screen. James Oseato's case was filed with international financial crime authorities 6 days after the recording was played. The name on the paper did not belong to anyone in this room who we have shown you clearly. Elena Sterling assumed full chairmanship of Sterling Holdings 90 days later. She renamed the company. Amara and Zara grew up knowing exactly who their grandfather was. One more thing about that bracelet. The analysts who reviewed the chip found, in addition to the trust documents and the recordings, a single image file. It is a photograph of a young woman, early 20s, laughing at something off camera, caught in the specific kind of happiness that does not know it is being watched. The file name is Adiz. Still looking. Damian Cross looked at that photograph for 11 minutes before he put his phone down. He has not discussed it with anyone yet. You know what that means. You've just finished She was slapped in front of 300 guests, but nobody knew she owned 38% of their empire. And if you made it here, you already know what kind of story lover you are. The relentless kind. The kind that deserves more. Subscribe to Afro K Storyverse right now because Adiz's story is coming, Damian's past is coming, and the name on that paper leads somewhere none of you have guessed yet. Like this video, if Elena's strength made you feel something. Drop a comment with the moment that broke you the most. Was it the wedding ring? The twins being separated? Marcus on the ground still holding Amara? Tell us. We read every single comment. Follow Afro K Storyverse and share this story with one person who needs it tonight. We will see you for the next chapter.